Hi everyone, I'm Jeremy from Breathe Architecture. Thanks for spending the time today. Thanks for giving your time to the jury. And this is Jackie, and Jackie's the project architect on this. And as we'll explain it to you, it's it's not the role of a standard architect. So thanks heaps, Jackie. So Jackie can answer all the hard questions. All right, I'll just share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land upon which Breathe stands. It's the land upon which the first branch that we did on ANZ Breathe stands, and it's the land upon which I'm broadcasting from today. We pay our respects to their elders past and present, and to all First Nations people of Australia. We acknowledge their continued and unceded connection to country and culture. ANZ Breathe. I mean, it's interesting for us to work with an organisation like ANZ, and why would they come to Breathe? And I think that we saw a big shifting in the banking sector after the Royal Commission. Their CEO, Shane Elliott, made a big speech to his board and his shareholders a few years ago, which talked about ANZ's commitment not only to shareholders in terms of dividends, and in value of the bank, but also in having a broader corporate responsibility in ESG. And so, interestingly for us, they asked us to talk to them about, what did that look like for the future of their bank and for the future of their banking. And they asked for us to look at the history of the way that they'd done their retail banking. They set a new framework, which kind of talked about a number of things, not just about returns to shareholders. Obviously they have to do that, but also they wanted to shape a world where what they call communities and people can thrive. So they wanted to do three things as well as returns to shareholders. They wanted environmental sustainability. They talked to us at length about their divestment from fossil fuels, so we didn't take this client on lightly. And they talked about, that they've been carbon neutral since 2010, before Breathe were. They wanted to talk about housing and access to housing for all Australians, and we've seen that with their investment in projects like Assemble, and they're interested in how to help first home buyers access housing. And then the other thing is financial wellbeing for all Australians, and so they want to help different sectors of the market, but particularly people at the edges, on becoming more financially sustainable. And so they're thinking about, how do they turn their branches into not just branches, but also educational hubs. They came to us with kind of, a brief, for kind of these first four things. The idea of they wanted to look at their current branches. They wanted to look at, building a new thing called ANZ Breathe, or at that time that didn't have a name. And they wanted to do some rapid prototyping around how that would be built. And then they wanted to build a pilot. What we spoke to them about was that if they actually really wanted to change hundreds of branches, like 400 branches around the country, and that they wanted to roll that out at about 50 branches a year, that they would need to build a system to be able to do that. And we would have to improve on that system. So after the pilot, we would then need to go back and retest that. So we suggested that beyond that, we needed to go and do some testing, worked out, did it work, add some parts or change some parts to that system, and then repeat and refine that. And then ideally give them an intuitive model, which could then be handed on to any of their other kind of architects and design partners around the country to be able to deliver on. So, sorry, I've just got Zoom windows all over my screen. So we start with this idea of the empty space. And then, making sure that what we're actually proposing is an installation rather than a fit out. That's the fundamental shift in this, that this thing is more like a piece of furniture or a set of pieces of furniture rather than a thing that can only go into one space once and then be thrown out. We wanted to build modularity into that kind of idea of installation. And so we went through a series of kind of rapid prototyping with the design team or the client team from ANZ. We then installed a prototype, which was imperfect, but we built that prototype, and that then became kind of the module, that we could then test. And the idea was that we would install more and build less, so hardly any building on site. We wanted to make sure we baked in sustainability around the whole project. So the whole thing is designed for disassembly. Everything is built without any glues in it. The whole thing is mechanically fixed. The idea is at the end of this building's life that everything can be unscrewed, unbolted, reused somewhere else, or broken into its kitted parts and sent to recycling in different areas. We wanted to make sure that it could scale across multiple branches or on bigger branches, and that it was incredibly flexible and could adapt over time. And then we wanted to keep it really, really simple so that any design partner, whether you're working in Hobart or Rockhampton, would know how to kind of roll out this. And so for us, it was about reducing complexity, reducing the number of parts, and making sure that it was seen as a simple installation, not a construction piece. And then lastly, we wanted to make sure that it was an intuitive model. And so part of the thing that we created with this was a design manual and an installation manual to help, future partners to be able to deliver these projects. So there were kind of 6 key moves. This light touch approach to make sure that we're leaving kind of the shell, which was really new to ANZ, saying that it's okay in an adaptive reuse situation to leave a shell that could be imperfect. You don't have to cover it to make it all perfectly, that you install within that we make these prefabricated panels that are designed for disassembly, that we have a plug and play attitude, so that over time they're thinking that in 10 years time they're not going to have ATMs, or if an ATM breaks currently, they have to go in there and pull apart part of their bunker, literally pull the walls apart to be able to get to their ATM to fix it. In this instance, in the short term, they can lift out the panel with the ATM and put a new ATM in there, or they can go in behind the bunker, unbolt it, lift it out and adjust it and put it back in. That no counter, no us, no them, that instead of having a teller situation, it's more like a cafe and you're sitting in kind of a table, a circular table intentionally surrounded by plants, rather than kind of, this old kind of, counter and a screen between you and them. Everything is made from Australian-made natural materials, and we've used as much kind of Indigenous suppliers as possible through the whole process. And everything is modular and kind of treated as furniture throughout the whole project. And so this is the kitted parts. So on a standard branch, this is kind of the number of the kitted parts that you would put in each of those branches. The materiality is kept really, really simple. So, and you can see that plants is our second material, like the kind of, biophilia was kind of, relatively new to ANZ, using real plants, not plastic plants.
1 minute.
Thank you. But, we kept everything really, really simple. We made sure that all the spaces were inviting and welcoming, that everything is modular and this can be redesigned easily. The whole thing is designed for disassembly. It feels like we're embedded in landscape. This is one of the 20 branches that were rolled out last year. But it's not just a branch, it's a whole system. So these were rolled out not just by us. We did the initial 5 branches. But we wanted to make sure it was easily scaled and replicated so that they could be replicated by their other organisations like I2C or Greater Group. So we built them not just a kit of parts and not just a CAD library, but also a design manual to be able to deliver all of those. And so that's it. It's a system, not just a fit out. Thank you.